Welcome to the Varsity Voices podcast, where every week we bring you the inside information and insight on Chicago Catholic League football. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and like us on wherever you're listening from, and you can also find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search for the Varsity Voices Chicago Catholic League Sports. Feel free to leave us a comment or email us at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. I'm Joe Frevaletti, and here with me is my co-host, Dan Frevaletti. And Dan, before we get to this week's episode, which we're going to cover the week one games for the purple, white, and red divisions, right?
Yep.
But before that, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've noticed this over the last week, maybe week and a half. The weather at night, you feel that crispness in the air.
I do.
A little bit cool on your skin. What does that tell you?
That tells me Friday nights is coming. Friday night blitz, baby.
Friday nights are coming, and Friday night blitz. Let's go! Yeah. So let's tell people, Dan, what to get ready for with our Friday Night Blitz episodes coming up.
You know, Joe, it's gonna be really exciting. Friday, August 30th, kind of the week one kickoff. I know there's a game Thursday and a game Saturday, but we're gonna be broadcasting live on that Friday night during the second half of a lot of the games. We'll catch people up on scores, some highlights. We will talk a little bit about the games in progress and the game that's happened. We'll be on after the games to recap some of what we saw. It'll be a great chance for us to talk football right out of the gate. We invite people to join the podcast where they can chat. Maybe they can get on the podcast and give us live reports. We're looking for correspondence. I think we've got a couple lined up. But we are always looking for more. We want to make it as interactive as possible. So it's going to be a great way to kick off the season, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, picture a Friday night party with a bunch of people sitting around a bunch of TVs and watching football, and then people checking in, from who are actually at the games and giving us updates, our correspondents, telling us what's going on. So, that kind of thing, when you think about it, is a lot of fun. And that's what we're hoping the Friday Night Blitz segments are like. So, the more people we can get involved from a correspondence standpoint, or just, checking into the broadcast and maybe leaving a comment here or there in the chat, the more people involved, the better. So if you're interested in being a correspondent, you're going to be out at some of the games, make sure you reach out to us. You can do that on any of the social media. You can email us too. Our email again is varsityvoices312@gmail.com. But feel free to reach out to us wherever you want and be a part of Friday Night Blitz.
Yeah, it should be exciting. There's a lot of great games to cover. It'll tell us a lot about some of these teams. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. So, speaking of looking forward to the first week, we're covering the, like I said earlier, the white, the red, and the purple divisions in this episode, and talking about the first games of the year, and giving a little bit of a preview as to the game, as well as maybe some predictions along the way too. Some you may not agree with, but that's the way it goes, right?
That's the way it goes, and if they want to hear about the blue and the green and the orange divisions, they can check out our podcast that we just dropped today. So make sure you go check that out. And we're gonna step out. We're not shy about making predictions, right or wrong. So I'm sure we'll be plenty of both. So it makes it fun. It makes it great to follow. It's what the people want.
It's what the people want, right? And we're going to step out right away here, Dan, in the white division. and we're going to go to St. Lawrence, right? So St. Lawrence this year in their first game is against Noble Academy, who is part of the Noble League. Um, I'm not sure this game is going to take place.
Yeah.
I think last year they had them scheduled, and I think it might have been a forfeit last year. But what I have heard or read is that Noble is going to be going to be fielding a team this year. So, first thing first, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Right?
Yeah, always want to have those games played on week one. You got to get your guys out there. They've been looking forward to this. We talked about practicing in the summer with nothing to look forward to makes it tough. If you go into that week one and the same thing happens, then you might, not that you're going to lose guys, but it's just kind of a bummer way to start the season.
Yeah, it is. And if they do have a team and they're going to field a team and come out and play, their first week opponent being St. Lawrence, they picked a really tough first week opponent. I mean, St. Lawrence last year, they had a great year. They won 10 games. They lost to Rochester in the state final game, right? But they're returning a lot of good players. They've got high expectations again, for this year. They've probably got a state title that they're thinking about. So I think this game, if it gets played, you've got to say St. Lawrence is going to win this and win this big.
Yeah, I think that either way, St. Lawrence comes out with a comfortable victory. It'll be interesting to see their new quarterback, and see how he fares but I think either way, it probably is going to be a pretty comfortable night for St. Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Okay. All right, so let's move on then to Montini. Next team in the white division, their week one game is against Hyde Park. Hyde Park last year was 3-6 after going 9-1 the year before. What I've seen or what I've read is that they're a young team this year, right? 9-1 the year before. Senior heavy team last year. They were a young team. They got some kids with some experience and talent. Now they've got another year under their belt, so they're expecting to take that next step. But going against Montini, 9-4 last year, we know they're loaded on the talent side. This will be another tough game for Hyde Park, and probably an easy one for Montini.
Yeah, I think the same thing that you're going to say about St. Lawrence, you can say about Montini. Hyde Park struggled last year. Really tough opener for them against Montini, who's got, like you mentioned, they're loaded. They've got a lot of returners. They've got a lot of talent, both sides of the ball, up front, secondary, back, skill position. So they've got a lot of talent. I see them being able to play a lot of people early in this game. And I just don't see that Hyde Park can hang with the Broncos.
No, I don't think so either. All right. So let's move on then to the next team here, which is Carmel Catholic in Mundelein. And their first game is against Grays Lake Central. So not actually a crosstown rival.
Right.
I don't think they played all that much, but relatively close. I know how you like the whole geography.
My maps, yep.
Maps
it's not quite close enough to be that traditional rivalry, and they haven't played enough. So,
right.
But yeah, they're at least in the same region. I think it's funny. I listened to the Bears broadcast on the radio over the weekend, and Jason McKee is a sideline reporter, Coach Jason McKee.
Right.
And does a great job. But you can so tell he's a coach. If he said fundamentals once, he said it 10 times during his sideline reports.
Right.
And so I think the fundamentals for Carmel carries the day here, and Carmel beats Grays Lake Central out of the Northern Lake Conference. So
yeah. So they were. I mean, one thing about Carmel, which maybe it raises a bit of a question mark, but I'm with you on thinking, they're going to win this game. But, they were a senior heavy team last year. They won 10 games, went deep into the playoffs. Um, they lost all 6 all division players to graduation, except for they've got their running back coming back and Donovan Day, and their defensive back, which I think is Coach McKee's son, Jordan McKee. So 2 good players there, but they were a pretty senior heavy team last year. But Coach McKee has them playing at a high level. And I'm sure the expectations are high too. So I'm pretty sure they walk away with a win here, Dan.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Carmel as well to win this one going away.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. So we're in agreement so far on everything that we've talked about. Let's see. The last team in the white division is Fenwick, and their first week opponent is Oak Park River Forest. They played them last year, right? I think in the first game of the year, and Fenwick beat them pretty easily, 34-13. I'm not sure if Oak Park River Forest, they were 1-8 last year. They missed the playoffs for the last 5 years or so. Not a ton of returning talent. So they've got their work cut out for them against Fenwick in week 1.
Yeah, it sounded like they feel pretty good about some of their lower levels that are coming up, and maybe some underclassmen that are going to be seniors. But Fenwick's got a really very good group returning. I just don't see a path for victory for OPRF in this one. I think Fenwick wins this one again, similar score to last year.
Yeah, they've got, like you said, they've got some really good players returning on Fenwick's side. They've got Nate Marshall, defensive lineman. They move them all over a little bit, even on offense, playing receiver and running back in some cases. He's a Michigan commit. And then you got Jack Paris, the linebacker, who's also a D1 prospect. So they've got a lot of talent and probably way too much talent for Oak Park River Forest.
Yeah, the white division is going to really like us. Our listenership is going to spike 4-0 for the white division. Yeah, they'll be happy. But I think we talked about scheduling and it's really important. And I understand you want to play great games and you want to do well, but these teams are, we said it on every podcast, meat grinder, headbanger. That's what their conference schedule looks like. So some of these games that are scheduled that might seem a little lopsided, and there's some reason for that, and some schools are willing to do that, and I can't say that I blame them.
No, I can't either. And we talked about this a couple of times now. Is there's only so many teams out there that you can schedule. Right.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these teams are already locked into, certain agreements with some schools. And, so if you're out there looking for a game, it's pretty tough to find a game in state,
right.
that's not going to be against maybe a team that's of a little lesser quality. Right.
Yeah. And you've got to, You've also, on the flip side of that is you've got to think about playoff points as well. So where you're at, at the end of the season and what that team does after they play you, and is going to factor in to your playoff points. So, there is this balance that coaches have to have, but I think the coaches in the Catholic League realize that, their Catholic League conference schedule will give them plenty of points. So, yeah. So I think that's one of the things that goes into it. I think the idea was to balance it out for the IHSA, but I think the Catholic League, realizes, hey, we've got to make sure that these we're set up for our conference schedule.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so that's the white division. They're going to be happy with us. I do have to say one thing. I did get a couple of messages from my Providence friends saying that they're in complete disagreement with me, and I'm going to be eating my words after the first game of the year
Gladly,
against
bring it
Wheaton
on.
North.
Yeah,
I
bring it
said,
on.
I said, I think Providence is going to have a really good year. I think they're ranked high, but happily eat my words. If they beat Wheaton North. So
Yeah, at least you probably weren't too happy about us forgetting about him early on in the podcast history either. So
yeah,
yeah, we've got some makeup to do with Providence.
we do. We owe Providence a lot more love.
Yeah,
Over the course of the next 9-10 weeks. Yeah.
they'll get it. They'll earn it.
Yes.
That's how they roll. They're going to go out and earn it.
Yep, for sure. All right, so let's move now to the red division, Dan, and let's start with Marmion. Um, we had a chance to talk with or interview Adam Guerra, the new head coach at Marmion, and really good interview. I think he's taken over a program that was 2-7 last year, but got some really good returning players coming back on both sides of the ball. Unfortunately, they lost one of those players to transfer over the summer, but I don't think that that's going to hold them back too much. They've got a couple all division players returning on offense. I think Joey Favia, Michael Roche, Brian Scales. So they're looking to improve big time over that 2-7 record last year.
Yeah, and they host Oak Forest week one, who was also 2-7.
Right.
And I'm going to go to their scrimmage. I think they scrimmage Bennett this week. And they're taking advantage of the IHSA rule that says you can have a scrimmage. It's somewhat controlled, no specials, but you definitely will get to see what teams have. I think they're probably, I don't know if they've got the full toolbox available to them, offensively and defensively, or if they're going to put that on film.
Yeah.
But we'll get an idea. Losing Gavin Burt hurts, but we'll be able to see. One of the things that I want to see is how they're able to absorb that loss. But it was, I think, in our interview, I expected more of, hey, we're rebuilding this. It's going to take a year at a time. And Coach Guerra was not like that at all. He complimented the team on being big and strong. And I think that carries them week one. So I'm going to pick Marmion in this game over Oak Forest.
Yeah, I'm going to pick Marmion as well over Oak Forest. So the one thing which gave me a little pause, Dan, even though Oak Forest was 2-7 last year, they're returning 17 starters from last year's team. Now, they didn't have a great year, but you know how that works if you're a coach, right? If you've got guys who've got a year of experience under their belt, all coming back as starters again, there's something to be said for that, I think.
Yeah.
And they've got a couple of good players, to keep an eye on, and their quarterback, who's I think only a junior, Daniel Chop, and then they've got a defensive end, linebacker, D1 recruit, Osada Odiasi, I believe his name is.
Good job. That's excellent.
That's pretty good.
Well done. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, but I do think Marmion has got the edge here, and it might be a close game, but I'm giving this to Marmion too. All right, De La Salle, Dan.
Yep.
What do you think about De La Salle against Argo week one?
Argo was a playoff team last year,
Yep.
and I think it's a great test for De La Salle. Coach Blackman is in the process of building a program in year one. Would probably like to see his numbers a little higher, but the players he does have size and skill.
Right.
So I think he does a great job. He's proven that he can win where he's been. I think it's a tougher pick this week. I think Argo is also an improving program. They made news a few years ago after not being in the playoffs for several years and had a playoff run that was a lot of fun for their program. And I think they've kind of upped their program a notch. So I think it's going to be a really, really good football game. It's one of the better games I think we'll see in these divisions that we're covering for week one. I'm gonna pick De La Salle, but I think it's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, I'm going the other way. I'm picking Argo in this game. Now, we interviewed Coach Blackman too, and I really like what he's doing with the De La Salle program, the things that he's putting in place. The one thing that really hurts them is losing. They lost their all division quarterback to transfer over the summer, right?
Right.
There was big expectations going to be put on that kid, to help kind of propel their program maybe to the next level. And, now they've got to replace him and fill in with somebody else. They've got some talent returning, obviously, at some key positions, wide receiver and tight end. I think they got Miles Green, who's an all-division player. They've got their tight end is Caleb Navarro, another all-division player. So they've got some talent in some key positions, but I think losing the quarterback and having to kind of fill that in, and Argo, like you said, is kind of an up-and-coming. They've got a lot of talent coming back, too. A couple of D1 prospects on their side. So I'm going with Argo on this one, Dan.
All right.
My first non-CCL pick.
Yeah, I am wearing my CCL colors, whatever those are. I've got them all on.
Yeah, I just, as you were talking, I just sent you your CCL hat and CCL T-shirt.
And banner, yes.
Yes.
I can wave that banner week one.
But that doesn't bother me at all because, we've said this before. We're homers, right?
Right.
We love the CCL.
Yeah, we are. So it's I'm looking at some of my picks here, wondering if there's any I can change. I'm going to stick with it. Rolling with the CCL.
That's why they play the games, and that's why you play who's ever on your schedule.
Yep. Let me have it if they lose.
All right. So, let's move to Leo. Leo, first week against Julian. Another coach we had a chance to interview, Dr. Marcus Stevenson. I believe that's his name, the head coach for Leo, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And really leaning into the history of Leo, kind of turning the program around, really getting the kids excited about playing at Leo, but it might take them a little while to get that program up and off the ground. I think they were 2-7 last year. They've got some all division players coming back too, and I think the key one is their running back Javon Logan, who they've got high expectations about. But they've also got a wide receiver, Neil Anderson. They got their tight end, defensive end Nicholas Armour. So they've got some talent, but Julian went 7-2 last year. Another decent season in the public league. So this is going to be a tough game, I think, and tough one to call.
Yeah, it is. And even though Julian was 7-2, I don't think they qualified for the playoffs.
Right. I didn't quite understand how that worked. I don't know if they went right to the prep.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and
I don't know.
Yeah. Someone who knows playoff rules probably will chime in and let us know the how and why. But Coach Stevenson eras, they're looking to take a step up. It's going to be a great game for them to start with. I do think they're going to play a lot of young people as well. I think one of the things we talked about was their freshman class last year. Good numbers, good football players. But I think it's also going to take a couple weeks to get going. That being said, Joe, I'm CCL Dan. I'm going with Leo in this. I'm picking Leo in this to give them the great start that they're looking for.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this one too, and I'm picking Leo as well. And I think some of that is predicated on our interview with Coach Stevenson. really enjoyed that and really felt like he had a really good handle on the program and what he wants to do with it, and that they're on track to get where he wants to go. And I think they take a step up this year from last year too. So I think they start off with a win here and beat Julian.
Yeah, it might be. We might be a blessing for these, and like a good luck charm for these coaches that interview with us.
Right.
Right, come on the air and come on the podcast, and we'll get you a win.
Oh, we should track that for sure.
For sure. The other thing could happen where no one wins and we never get an interview again.
Right. Yeah. It's making me, these games aren't for 10 days, most of them. And, because I'm making predictions, I'm starting to get nervous and anxious. I thought, great,
Nobody get hurt. Nobody get hurt between now and week 1.
Yeah. I've got 10 days of nervousness and anxiousness to wait for or to deal with.
Yeah.
All right. So last team in the red division is Marion Catholic, Dan, and first game against Rich Township. What do you think here?
They beat him last year, right?
Right. They beat him big, 49-0.
Yeah. And, and I mean, I expect something similar this year. I think when we talked to Marion's coach, he talked a little bit about, their defense being primed to take a step up. And when you shut out that team the previous year and your defense is taking a step up, that probably bodes well week 1. Richton, when they won last year, they won pretty big. But like we said, the level of competition is a little different. And I think because of that, Marion Catholic wins, gets off to a solid start again, and handles Richton Park.
I think so too. I mean, I know Marion Catholic, they, I don't know why this is becoming a trend, but I think it's going to continue, Dan. But, they lost a key player over the summer to transfer as well. I think their running back was that. And I can't remember his name, unfortunately, right now. But in talking to Coach Lopez, he's got some really good players coming back. Somebody step right in and be able to fill that. Now, the kid was talented for sure, but I think Marion Catholic, from top to bottom in their roster, is a lot more talented than Rich Township will be, and they probably win, like you said, in kind of the same type of score as last year, I think.
Yep. Agree. All right, so I've got the red 4-0.
Did you? 4-0. I've got 3-1.
3-1. Yep, pretty good. Yep.
All right. Well, let's see what you do with the purple. I'm really interested in where you're going to end up with some of these teams here in their first game.
Well, we already talked about St. Pat's and Notre Dame, right? We both picked St. Pat's.
We both picked St. Pat's. Yeah. So we won't cover that one again.
Yeah.
All right. And unless there's anything you want to say for maybe people who are only listening to this episode, didn't listen to the last one.
Yeah. I think St. Pat's is this is kind of a year they've been pointing to. I think the class is primed for success. I think they've returned people who've got a ton of experience, been playing since they were freshmen in some cases. So I think this is kind of a culmination effect, for St. Pat's this year. And I think they start off beating ND in what's probably going to be a really, really close game. Good one. Really great one to cover on Friday Night Blitz.
Yes, for sure. And this might fit into our coaches we've interviewed thing too.
Yep. There you go.
We interviewed Coach Mertens, right?
Yeah.
Another good interview, and you can go back and listen to that if you want to. It's one of our episodes. I'm with you on this. I think it's going to be a close game, a really good game. I don't know where this one is at, if it's in Niles at Notre Dame or at St. Pat's, but That could make a bit of a difference here. But, I think St.
It's
Pat's
at
wins this one as well.
Yeah, it's at ND, which is another tough place to play.
It is.
Great home field advantage for Notre Dame there. Great atmosphere. One of my favorite places to coach and be at. I on the sideline, we seem to have awful weather every time I played or coached there,
Right.
but I loved the atmosphere. It's got that. What it's got, Notre Dame. It's got that smell of bratwurst.
Smell of bratwurst, for
Yeah,
sure. I was
big
just
deal.
going to say that. I remember the last time I was there was when I was doing the broadcasts, and that was the overwhelming thing. I was sitting up in the booth, and I could just smell the bratwurst, wafting up into the booth, and I had to tell Brendan to he had to take over because I had to go get something to eat.
Right, we've had coaches get stuff to eat at halftime, and that's a prime place because that grill they have rolling is top notch.
Yes, top notch. All right, so we both picked St. Pat's there, but again, really interesting game for that week one for sure. Let's go to St. Viator, Dan, and they're playing a team from out of state again. This year, it's a team from Milwaukee called Riverside University High School. They played last year, and Viator beat them 53-0. Beat them really easy last year. Viator has, from that team last year, Viator has, 5 returning all-division players. They've got their quarterback, Cooper Komet, coming back. They've got their big lineman, Ben Kanapka, coming back. They've got their running back, Davion Ellis, coming back. Wide receiver, Jalen, I don't know how to say his last name, coming back. So if you think about it, if they scored 53 points last year on Riverside, it's probably going to be about the same this year, if not more, with these guys all having one more year under their belt.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything different, happening this year. The only thing I would think that you have to kind of look out for is that because you beat them that way last year, you don't want kids to be overconfident. So you could have that. Plus, you're traveling. I know it's not terribly far for St. Viator. They probably have, if they have to go to the south side, to play a game, I think that's worse travel than going to the Milwaukee area for them. So,
right.
But you don't want kids to get caught up in the score from last year, and you just want to make sure that they are focused on the task at hand. I think St. Viator's got the personnel to do that. I think they are that type of group. So I expect them to take care of business week one.
Yeah. All right. So we're in agreement there. So let's move to DePaul Prep, and they've got a tough first week opponent in Deerfield. Deerfield beat DePaul Prep 34-14 last year.
Yeah, it was pretty handily.
First game of the season, beat them pretty easily, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here's another coach that we've talked to at DePaul Prep, Coach Passarella, who you and I have both said this is a team on the rise and a team we really like for this year. So, that makes picking this first game against Deerfield, who's going to be good again, a real tough one, Dan.
Yeah, and I have, there are a couple games I highlighted because the schedule is kind of unique, but this was one that is really tough to pick. I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think we both feel the same way about DePaul Prep, and that is that they are on the rise. They are poised for a playoff push this year. This game's at DePaul this year. Again, not sure what that means, but I am going to pick DePaul Prep in this
there
one.
You go.
Flip the script.
CCL Dan.
Yes, but my qualifier is, Joe, I've got a highlighted qualifier here that no one can see. It's going to be a really tight game. Yeah.
Nobody's going to remember it either.
Right.
Yeah,
it's going to be really tight. I think this this is one of the ones that I'll have my eyes on for sure throughout the evening because I think it's got a chance to be one of the better games of week one.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to go the other way, Dan, on this one, and I'm going to pick Deerfield. And even though I love Coach Passarella, I love DePaul Prep, I want them to have a great season, and I think they're going to have a great season. Deerfield has got, I for some reason I put a lot of credence into this, but they have 15 returning starters from last year's team, with 9 of them on offense. So all of them coming back. Plus another 6 on defense. There's going to be a lot of experience there. They might run into the, we beat them last year, pretty easily. So maybe they'll be looking past them. But I don't know. I just think Deerfield might have a little too much in week one for DePaul to handle. So I'm going to have to go with Deerfield on this one, Dan.
Yeah, DePaul, the benefit to being on the flip side of a bad loss last year is that you can red letter that game, and
right.
it's a great motivator for the summer, for fall camp. Those guys are going to be chomping at the bit. So that definitely played a role in my picking DePaul this year.
All right, good. Well, another great game. We're going to be watching Friday Night Blitz. Make
Friday
sure you
Night
tune
Blitz.
in.
Yep, Get on, help us out. All you DePaul Prep people, make sure you're chatting us up and joining the podcast. And if anyone wants to come on the pod, they certainly we can get you on the air.
Yeah, and don't pay attention to what I said in my prediction. We want you to want to join the podcast. Listen to CCL Dan, and you can talk to him about this, but I'll happily eat my words on this one too, if it happens.
Yeah, that would be the driver for people to join. So
right.
Make Joe eat his words.
Right. All right. So the last team in the purple division and one close to both our hearts, Dan, is Bennett Academy.
Right.
And their first week opponent is Hillcrest. So I know you and I have a lot of thoughts, on this game, and on Bennett for this year. But Bennett went 4-5 last year. They missed the playoffs for the 4th straight year. Considering their strength of schedule this year, and needing 5 wins, this first game, winning this game is key for them. I think if they're going to have a chance at returning to the playoffs. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be a great indicator for the rest of their season. I think that they got off to a great start last year, starting 3-0, and they are one of those teams that might get kind of lost in the shuffle in the Catholic League, in that 4-5 mix. I think they play really well outside of the Catholic League. And that's been the case for a couple of years. So, I don't think it's going to be easy at all for Bennett. Highlighted game, Joe. Highlighted game
for sure.
This one's going to be really tough. I think Bennett is looking forward to the scrimmage this weekend. Coach New, talked about how you get the jitters out, the bugs out in week one, and you have great improvement from week 1 to week 2. He wanted to treat this scrimmage as close to game atmosphere as possible. So I think that it's going to help them. I think that might figure some things out. They've got some key players returning. So I think it's going to be a great challenge because Hillcrest is kind of loaded. And so I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to be a really tight game. But CCL Dan is staying true. I'm picking Bennett to win week 1.
All right. Well, I do like that pick, and it's going to be a tough game. Hillcrest was 7-4 last year. Two of their losses came against CCL teams. So
and that was a big deal for me, Joe. That with their losses, pretty handily to CCL teams played a factor in my pick this year.
Yeah, they lost to Montini during the regular season. Then they lost to Providence in the playoffs. Providence and Bennett, played the last game of the regular season last year, and Providence won that, but it was a fairly close game. But Hillcrest, they've got 9 returning starters on offense, including their quarterback, their running back. They've got 5 huge offensive linemen. I think they average 275 pounds, a couple of them being D1 level prospects. So I think they're starting to squeak into some of the top 10 rankings that are coming out, starting to come out here. So it's going to be a tough game and a close game. Bennett's got some good returning players as well, and I always think it's key when you've got someone like Ryan Kabaki, their quarterback, who's coming back and should take that next step as a player. And I think they've got some other players that are going to be stepping up because they did lose some of their weapons on the outside. But I think because of the schedule that Bennett plays and how they're kind of battle tested, right? And I think I'm going to go with Bennett on this one as well. Even though I'm with you, what did you say? You've got highlighted.
I just have the ones highlighted that were really tough to call.
Yeah,
that made me go back and forth, and
this is a tough call.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know a ton about Hillcrest. I know they had a transfer that's going to hurt their defense,
right?
But so that always stings. You don't know what their depth is like and how much they were asking that player to do. It was a Division I type kid. So yeah, it is. It's a highlighted one, Joe, because it's one to watch because it'll be interesting to see how Bennett fares. It'll and there are games that are early on that I think tell us a lot, and obviously things can change during the season, but you can get a pretty good idea, week one of what you can expect, over the course of the year.
Right. Yeah. And my expectations, and I got to see, Bennett play last year, obviously, and they're gonna be ready, right? They're gonna be ready for game one. They're gonna score some points. I think, they're gonna put the ball up. They're gonna throw it, and they're gonna put some pressure on the defenses. So, I think that's gonna carry them through in game one here because I do think they're going to be ready for the season, knowing that they've got to get off to a good start, and I think that's going to make a difference for them.
Yeah. So I picked 12-0, didn't I, for these 3?
I believe you did. Yeah.
God, I really don't want to be that much of a homer, but it's early on. Hey, in week 3, I will pick against some of these schools.
Right. Yeah. Once you get a couple of weeks under your belt, yeah. But I don't know, you're not stepping out very much here.
No,
you don't have to. I mean, that's what you truly believe. So, that's what you got to go with.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. It'll be if I go 12-0. I'm probably gonna have to pick college games the next day,
right?
For my own personal use. Yeah.
But that'll make the first first week and the first episode of Friday Night Blitz even that more exciting, Dan.
Yeah, and meaningful, right?
And meaningful. Yeah. We are going to be rooting for your 12-0. I forget what you were on the other division.
I mean, it wasn't bad. It's not like it was 6-6. It was.
You're not 24-0 though, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not 24-0, but it's under 4 losses, I think, total.
All right,
for the Catholic League.
Yeah. Well, that's why they play the games, right? And we get to see what happens, and that's coming up coming up soon. Let's see, we've got 10 days, actually 9 days for some of the teams. 10 days until the start of the season, 10 days until Friday Night Blitz. Remember, if you want to be a part of that, make sure you reach out to us on social media or email us at varsityvoices312@gmail.com. We'd love to have you a part of Friday Night Blitz. So,
and Joe, real quick
yeah.
before we sign off, Tyler Lofton is the name we were looking for the running back who
from Marian
transferred from Marian
Catholic?
Catholic to Brother Rice. Yeah,
He went to Brother Rice. I
did.
couldn't remember where he went.
Yep, yeah. And that's a whole episode for us at some point in the future is transfers. But Tyler's a great player. One of my favorite backs to watch. I love his game, but yeah, didn't want to leave without getting his name out there that we couldn't find before.
All right, well, good, yeah. All right, well, that's it for this episode, and make sure you tune in for our next episode. Where what are we going to cover in our next episode, Dan? Are we're talking about? We talked maybe about some of the key players or players to watch in the CCL.
I think a players to watch segment would make a lot of sense. I think there's so many good players. We've talked a lot about coaches, about programs, about kind of where they're at, as a program. We haven't really, gotten into the players as much, which is what makes it so great. Right. And
right.
So let's take a look at the players the next time out.
All right, we will do that, and don't forget to join us for that too in our next episode. And don't forget to subscribe, follow, or like us on wherever you're listening from. Again, we're on social media. We're on X. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on them all at the Varsity Voices Chicago Catholic League Football. And again, you can email us, varsityvoices312@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in. And make sure you come back and listen to our next episode.